First of all, let me start by saying that there is a 4-hour police interview with the suspect in this week's case. It is a shocking, rare, and revealing look into the mind of a serial rapist. This guy redefines methodical, predatory behavior. He spent weeks stalking his victims, watching their every move, breaking into their homes, all before actually even striking. Now, I frequently work from my home, so I happened to bring the DVDs with the interview back to my house. And after watching it several times and taking my notes, what he had to say was so vile, so disgusting, so disturbing, I hit the eject button, took the DVD out, walked outside my house, and dropped it in the garbage because I didn't want it anywhere inside of my house. Now, there are plenty of other copies around 48 hours. I just didn't want that inside my house.
Power and control are a means to an end.
And even though what he had to say was fascinating and informational to FBI agents and also law enforcement, that's not even the point of why I wanted to be a part of covering this case. To me, the driving force was to analyze the way that we treat victims. How do police treat a victim? How does society treat a victim? How do we as individuals treat victims? And the way in which a victim is treated, how that correlates directly to whether or not the crime gets solved. Do we treat a victim as if they have lost something, regardless of how you measure that loss? Or do we sometimes treat victims as a suspect, questioning their story, questioning whether or not it's the entire truth, if somehow they did something to provoke the victimization by the person who attacked them? That's a question that all of us should be asking ourselves. It's a question that FBI Special Agent Johnny Grusing asked himself while covering this case, while trying to solve it. So you may recognize Grusing. He's been in a couple of our other shows. We've worked on a few different murder cases with him. But he said this was the first time he was asked to head up a task force where the victims were still alive and the clock was ticking, trying to catch this guy before there were any more victims. I can tell you personally, it is one thing to read the horrible details in a crime sheet of what happened to somebody, but to have a victim sit in front of you and relive every one of those disgusting, horrible details that happened to them during the course of rape, which encapsulates an awful lot of terrible things, that's something entirely different because you have to sit there as they're going through it. You are reliving it with them. You're listening to it. You're hearing about it. And you can't even possibly imagine how bad it was for them. And yet, it's just unbearable to have them have to go through the entire process all over again. So we want you to watch this week's case. I have to say, when I sat down to write this reporter's notebook, I thought, where do I even begin? This case was fascinating, horrible, disgusting, disturbing, and yet it was also absolutely harrowing. So watch the show, but don't just watch it. Listen to it. Listen to the way people talk about the victims and the way the victims talk about themselves. It might change your mind. As always, join us on Facebook and Twitter live during the broadcast. I'm usually on Twitter. Sometimes I'll switch over to Facebook. Let us know what you think. And thanks again for watching 48 Hours.